Welcome to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast, brought to you by Deets on Man Productions.
Stop trying to be an adult so quickly because you have a long time to be an adult. So enjoy your youth because it goes by quickly.
The grace of God supports you, and you're gonna be all right.
Seize every single moment because of this simple fact: you can't get more time.
To my high school self, I will say, get over yourself.
Life is a series of lessons. Some of them are far more expensive than others, right?
You are worth it. You are worth it. Don't ever doubt yourself.
Hey, this is Scott Thompson. Welcome back to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast. And today I have with me, he's the former ad club president, FHA wrestler, I think.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Yeah, and in a couple of ads actually in the yearbook. I haven't seen too many people in multiple ads. So welcome, Mark Thompson. What's going on, man?
Hey, not much, Scott. Scott, it's good to talk to you.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember being involved with the ad club, so I'm glad you reminded me of my accomplishments. Something else from my resume.
Yeah, really. Oh, so, man. So what's
I do have kind of a couple of public service announcements. All right. First one is, everybody knows, well, not everybody knows, but my brother was a year ahead of us at high school. And I've met some people over time that didn't realize that he died of leukemia at age 37 in the year 2000. So I wanted to start off with that so that, unfortunately I posted something on Facebook just a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And Butch Boland immediately got back to me and said, "What are you talking about? What's going on? What happened?" So I just kind of want to let people know, because we were so close in age that many people, especially grown-ups at First Baptist Church, thought there was just one Thompson boy, and there weren't two of us. And so half my life I've been called Tom, and it really just got under my skin when I was a kid. And now it just kind of makes me feel so good if someone actually accidentally calls me Tom. So
yeah, that's great. Sorry to hear about that, but I totally understand.
Well, thanks, man. That's part of life. I mean, we've lost we lost Tom Tunin, we lost David Hayden. There's been several people that we lost from our lives. Mm-hmm. Second public service announcement: Scott Townsend has done a great job on all these podcasts for us, and is doing us a real favor, letting us catch up with each other without even being at a reunion. But what he won't tell you is that he's looking for a job. And I think what we need to do is we need to mobilize the class of 1982's Wildcats network in business and help him find some opportunities that can keep it busy and keep some money coming in. So that's my second public service announcement. My son now works for Phillips, my youngest son, Zach, and I reached out to him, and he had a couple of ideas. So
I appreciate
but I think there's got to be somebody somewhere that needs the skills that Scott has and can desperately use them. So let's find.
I appreciate that. Thanks for doing that. That wasn't planned, but totally the generosity of Mark Thompson. I appreciate that.
That's not generous. I was just ambushing you like you did Keith about his girlfriend's name. So.
Oh, so catch us up to speed, man. Give us the in the last 39 years, you've got 2 minutes. Can you sum up your life? And no, I'm not saying 2 minutes.
Yeah,
just whatever.
Well, went to OU. Got very involved in the Baptist Student Union at OU, and met the love of my life there.
Oh yeah,
Ren Barber.
That was one of my questions. How did you and your wife meet? Yeah, so there you go. I'll scratch that one off the list.
Actually, she went to Sooner High, and I knew her. I knew who she was because she also attended First Baptist a lot. And as Glenn told you, I mean, he and myself and another individual named Tom Allen, we all lived in the basement at my house there in Woodland Park. So Tom just had some rough family situations and just needed a place to live so he could finish high school. And Glenn wanted to come back, and I'd forgotten that he was trying to get in and play football again. I didn't remember that part of the story, but anyway, it was kind of like being in college our senior year, because we had 2 roommates and we did a lot of stuff together, and we had separate friends that we did stuff separately with. So that was fun. But a funny story is that Glenn had asked Bryn out on a date, and she called while he was gone to break the date, and I actually took the message. So here I am speaking to my former wife, or my future wife, and I don't even know it. So pretty funny story, but I'm sure it wasn't funny to Glenn at the time. But in any case,
hey Glenn, Bryn doesn't want to go out with you anymore. It's just too bad.
And you know, at that age, we would have been so empathetic, and I probably would have delivered it as kindly as possible, you know, but
I'm
right.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we met, we fell in love, we got married after my sophomore year of college, and then I graduated, and you know, I think Mindy was talking about the hard time we had when we graduated because the oil dust, and that was right about the time that Carl Icahn and T-Boone Phillips, T-Boone Pickens, had done a number on Phillips and
Bartlesville.
And Bartlesville as a whole. So I wonder, as an OSU grad, I mean, you have to have some mixed emotions about T-Boone, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. You got to hand it to him for what he did and what he did for OSU later on in life. But the years you're talking about were that's rough.
Yeah. Bryn's dad, David Barker, worked for Phillips and retired from Phillips, actually. So during those times, I was very plugged into what was happening, and he just described horrible incident after horrible incident of people just, okay, security's here, you know, you got to get up and leave, and basically escorting them out. So very tough times, but it made it tough to find a job too. My point for getting out of college, and so I went.
What'd you major in?
Well, it's kind of funny, you know, you're talking about people that, what did you want to do as a kid? Well, I wanted to help people. That's what I always told people. What do you want to do with your life? Well, I want to help people. Well, the only way I could figure to do that in college is I went and I got a social work degree. Okay. In your social work degree, you start doing real life work, you know, pretty early on, like your junior year. So I volunteered at a suicide crisis line. Very good experience. Learned a lot from it. Very tough experience. You know, man. Right. And then my practicum, which is like a semester where you work for free, and you're graded by people who would be your boss if you were working for money. Right. Was at the J.D. McCarty Center, and it was a center for kids with cerebral palsy. And what I learned from that experience and from the number 9, the crisis line experience, was that some people have the ability to flip that stuff off like a light switch when they leave work, and some people don't. And I didn't have the ability to flip that off. It really, things tore me up, and I realized I was either going to become very hard and very bitter, or I needed to find some other way to make money. And so that's when I switched. I got the degree in social work, but I went ahead and got a degree in marketing as well. So I took what they call today a victory lap, right? And then I thought, well, shoot, I can get a job in sales, right? In Procter & Gamble, somebody will hire me. And I ended up getting, I think, only 2 offers. I got one from the Army and Air Force Exchange Service, and I got one from Ford Motor Credit. I got the Ford Motor Credit offer second, so I turned it down because I already accepted with the Army and Air Force Exchange Service. And that's a service that runs all the retail facilities on Army and Air Force bases.
Okay.
And I was a retail manager. So the first 6 or 8 years of my career, Brent and I moved 5 different times. So
Oh man.
we were at Fort Hood, including Texas, and Barksdale Air Force Base in Bossier City, Louisiana. Then Fort Sill in Lawton, Oklahoma, of course. Then the Charles Melvin Price Support Center, which is it's no longer a military base, it's closed, but it was right outside of Granite City, Illinois, which is just across the river from St. Louis.
Oh yeah.
We lived in a beautiful little farm town called Troy, Illinois, which I still have really good memories of. And then from there, my wife said, I really don't care where we move next, Mark, but I really just want to go somewhere south. You know, it's cold up here. We get a lot of snow. And so, of course, what does APHIS do? I get orders for Fort Wainwright, which happens to be in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I called Brent and I said, you know, Brent, I'm sorry, this time we're not going south, but I guarantee you, wherever we go next, it will be south of where we're going. And so we spent, I think, almost 3 years in Fairbanks, which is a beautiful place and a great experience. But let me see, while in Fairbanks, our second son was born. The first son was born in Lawton, and he was a little over 2 when we moved to Fairbanks. And then I guess he was a little over. Yeah, he was a little over 2 when we moved to Fairbanks, and my youngest son was born in Fairbanks. And but the next year, my oldest son Josh was diagnosed with autism, and we began a pretty tough journey to help him get as far as he could possibly go in his life, right?
Right.
And part of that was Alaska had a lot of money to throw at people, but they had no people to perform services. So in the whole state that's more than twice as big as Texas, there was one pediatric neurologist. Wow. And Josh, and he was in Anchorage, and that's a 6-hour drive. I think Christy Brooks can attest to that because she's made that drive recently. But if you can imagine packing up your family, including your 2 kids under 5 in the middle of winter and driving them to Anchorage for a doctor appointment, a 6-hour drive. When we got back, we realized we'd only seen one other car the whole trip. Once we got outside of Anchorage, and I thought, I've just put my family in grave danger and really didn't even know where to think about it. You know? Yeah. So the company I'm with was with APHIS. I asked them, I said, hey, I got to get back somewhere to the lower 48. I got to get us back somewhere where they have more services. And they brought me back to headquarters, and I worked for them a couple of years. Decided that I would go out and do some consulting with a couple of different firms. And then after that, decided, you know what, I don't have to build some huge consulting firm, but if I go into business for myself and stay busy, I can sure take care of my family. And so in 1998, I started a company. I've started 2 since then. 2 of them are still running. One of them was shut down. But in any case, I'm basically a software consultant now. And for most of those 20 years, or however many years that is, I've been a traveling consultant. So leave on a Sunday night or a Monday morning and fly back on a Thursday evening. But COVID has changed all that. And I now get to work from home, or Brent and I have some boats up on Texoma, and one of them's big enough we can sleep on. So a lot of times I'm able to work from boat.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So
not just boat, but you have boats.
Boats, yeah. Well, if you have one you can sleep on, you know, it's not really one that's going to be good for fishing, right?
Oh yeah.
So we got a boat that we sleep on. We got a boat that I can fish off of, and then my wife and my son Josh love to jet ski. So we have a jet ski that they go riding on quite a bit, and
that's cool.
I think my wife claims to be the world record holder for time spent with a son on a jet ski by a mother. And I can't dispute that.
where are you calling from? Not, I don't want your address. Just what city are you at right now?
I'm in Mansfield, Texas. So I'm south of the DFW Metroplex a little bit.
Okay.
So if you got Dallas on the right, you got Fort Worth on the left, you got Arlington in the middle. If you go straight south from Arlington, that's where we live.
So Glenn's over in Rockwall.
Glenn's in Rockwall, and I just found out Mindy is, teaching in Dallas. I didn't know that. So
And then I just talked to Christy Brooks yesterday.
yeah, she's in Dallas as well.
She's in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys kind of got a little group going on there.
Well, yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, when you live in Oklahoma, you realize there's a lot of jobs in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, right? I mean, there's not so many in Oklahoma, especially if the oil industry is not doing well, which it wasn't at the time. So, but yeah, so that's a synopsis, basically.
Yeah. Looking back on high school, 1982. When you think of College High, what's one of your fondest memories? What's the first thing you think of that's a fond memory?
Think of going to Landers for lunch, sitting around Jeff Blair's Mustang 2, and listening to his tape of Pink Floyd The Wall.
That's cool. You just answered another question I was going to ask, and that was about the school cafeteria, but it doesn't sound like you went to the school cafeteria. You went to Landers.
Oh, I did. I would go to the cafeteria too, but if it was during wrestling season, I basically would just get a packet of, the processed sliced meat, and that would be my lunch. So, because we couldn't eat a whole lot during wrestling season, so
had to keep.
And in football season, they want to get your weight back up, so it's always a struggle after football.
So you played football and you wrestled?
Yes, and until I got injured, I couldn't play or wrestle anymore after my sophomore year. I did some real damage to my shoulder. Finally had it repaired about 10 years ago, and man, it feels great. So,
wow, that's cool. Jeff Blair and his Mustang, what? Mustang 2?
Mustang 2. It kind of looked like a skinny Pinto.
I'm sure he would appreciate that.
I'm sure he wouldn't. That's why I said it. And also, Glenn was a Mustang nut, so he had an older Mustang too, and it was always at our house. And so, but Glenn knew anything and everything about all Mustangs. So,
yeah, he mentioned something about Mustangs.
Oh yeah,
during his episode.
Well, he was driving one when he was living at the house. So,
yeah. So there was Pink Floyd, REO Speedwagon, Journey, Boston,
Styx.
Yeah.
I think one of our proms was like the Paradise Theater, which was a big Styx album at some point. So
the one thing no one's mentioned and I haven't asked is were there comedians that we listened to back then? I mean, who was it back then? Maybe it's Bill Cosby's about the only one, or Lenny Bruce, or I don't even know.
Well, my dad listened to country music, and so if you were at our house and he had control, I mean, you're going to hear country music. But he also loved a couple of comedians that. One was more of a newspaper columnist. His name was Louis Grizzard. And he was the columnist for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And he made all kinds of fun about being a redneck and growing up in the South and how life was in the South. And really just kind of a really clean humorist because it was in the paper, right?
Yeah.
And then also at that time, the other guy just slipped my mind. But, sad to say that Bill Cosby was, very good, very talented as a stand-up.
Right.
And I still have an album of his called Himself. And he goes through the description of he and his wife going through the natural childbirth process.
Yeah.
So, and it's hilarious. I have a hard time listening to it now, understanding some of the things that he was accused of doing, but it's funny how times changes things. But I don't remember Saturday Night Live until I got to college.
Oh yeah.
But it was actually funny back when we were in college. So
right, it's
right.
just nothing. That's just me though. I just
Me, me too. I don't think it's nearly as funny as it used to be.
How was your life? Talk about changes. How's your life different, or how? So how did I write this? Oh, okay. How was your life different now than you thought it would be at this point?
Well, first, I think we were all clueless, as to what our life would be. I certainly was. I thought I was going to help people. And not to say I haven't. I mean, I just help people in a different way than I imagined.
Yeah.
I think I've mentored like maybe 10 or 15 people that have started their own companies, and so that's been a kind of a part, or should I say, even a ministry, right? Help people, give them more financial freedom and more freedom to do the types of things they like to do and work,
Right.
And then Bryn and I have started probably at least 2 support groups for people that have kids with disabilities. So when Josh was diagnosed in Alaska, I mean, this was 1993, I believe, was when he was diagnosed. We went to the Fairbanks Library, and there were 2 books on autism, and only 2. So we immediately checked them out and just voraciously read them. But this was before this avalanche of diagnostics that have happened with autism and the whole autism spectrum. So, but in any case, we started a support group there for the Fairbanks North Star Borough and their school district. And then when it came time to move, we knew we could live anywhere in the Metroplex. So Bryn and I, and mostly Bryn, she's the one that did all the good work with Josh. But what she did is, we got tired of hearing school districts say, yeah, we're very good with kids with autism. We're very good. Well, of course, that's what they're going to say, right? So we started talking about support groups, and we started reaching out to support groups. And we reached out to all of them all over the Metroplex that we could talk to. And we kept hearing about this town called Mansfield that had won a huge grant, and they were doing full inclusion with kids with autism. And so these kids progressed through school with their kids from their neighborhoods. And I remember when I moved to Bartlesville in 7th, everybody was kind of defined by where they went to grade school, right? I mean, before we had formed any other groups, there were the Limestone kids and the other kids that went to so many other grade schools, I'm like, hello, I went to Hera grade school, small town outside of Oklahoma City, which was a farm town. And you guys are talking about how small Bartlesville was. Wow. To me, moving to Bartlesville was the big city, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in a place where the closest movie theater was Shawnee, and that was 30 minutes away from where we lived. So,
Well, so you didn't grow up in Bartlesville?
No, I moved there before the 7th grade.
Before the okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but,
we went to Garfield when we first moved to Bartlesville. I went to Garfield, and like I was telling somebody else, that was like a prison. It was just it was horrible.
Yeah,
but
that's funny.
But, sometimes I think I have Asperger's. I'm not trying to be funny here. Sometimes I think I'm a Asperger. How do you say that? Asperger's or
yeah, you're saying right, Asperger's.
Mm-hmm. I heard a deal on NPR about this guy who was perfectly functioning, and his wife had him do this test or something, and it matched up. And I listened to that, and I was like, man, that sounds a lot like me. So I don't know. I've always kind of thought in the back of my mind that I kind of have those tendencies. But,
well, I can see some of those tendencies in myself. And I think that what has happened is that we're a lot better at diagnosing them now. and we have a lot more tools in the school system, and so they're diagnosed more heavily. And I read I can't remember the name of the guy's name, but he's a PhD in sociology, and he wanted to find out, is there a epidemic of autism, or are we simply diagnosing it more often than we used to? And his conclusion, after doing some very good studies that were reviewed by peers in the sociology, he came to the conclusion that it's not really that it's more prevalent, it's that we're better at diagnosing it, and we have better diagnostic tools to identify it now. So, we've, through the years, Mansfield, back to why we ended up at Mansfield is that they did full inclusion, and Josh ended up in a school in our neighborhood with kids from our neighborhood. And what you end up with, and a lot of this was due to Bryn, she would go to the school every year before they started and say, can I speak with the class? And they would pull Josh out, and she would describe what autism is, and she would go through a little spiel about it. And she did that all the way through, I think it must have been the 9th grade, because the 10th grade, it was just too huge, But by then he had all these advocates that, were his classmates, and the cool kids thought it was cool to be nice to him rather than to pick on him. So to think about our high school, in our high school experience, everybody that had a special need or disability was up over the gym, right? And am I wrong about that? I think they were definitely segregated from the rest of us.
Right. I don't remember anybody.
Right. So you don't remember having class with them, do you?
No.
So Josh has a whole ton of people. So we still live in Mansfield. He graduated in 2010. Kids with disabilities could go to the 21. But we still go over town and people say, oh, hi, Josh. And we'll say, who is that? He said, I don't know. But he had so many partners in PE and so many people that their job was to help him get from one class to another. That, it was just awesome. But in any case, so that's kind of been, the other side of it. He's not going to be able to really live independently. So when we built our house, we built a kind of a suite upstairs for him with his own entrance and exit. And but amazingly enough, since he graduated high school, he's really done very well. He's quite happy, which is a father. I think the main thing you want to see from your kids is that they're happy.
Right.
So
no, that's the truth.
Very blessed there. Very blessed.
Yeah. Matthew's 27, married, got a kid due in December, and what do you want for Father's Day? What do you want for Christmas? And I tell him, I'm like, you know what? I don't want anything, just to know that you're doing okay, that you're standing on your own 2 feet, and that you're a productive, contributing member of society.
Absolutely.
That's all that's all I care about. Just don't worry about it, I've got what I was looking for.
So my youngest son, Zach, I've got a grandson already. Booker is aged, he'll be 5 in December. So it's at a very fun age. My daughter-in-law loves Halloween. That's her favorite holiday. And so we get to go down and share Halloween with them every year. Right. They live in Houston. He works for Phillips and all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm very blessed too. He likes to spend time with us. That's that's his present to me, is like, we've done things like we've gone to the Big 12 championship in football, which was at Jerry Jones World, which is 8 miles from my house. So it's very, very handy. This year we're going on a trip really soon to Montauk, New York. I hope the flood has not washed it away. But we're going to go there for the fall striper run, which is kind of like the famous striped bass run for the U.S. at least, is at Montauk. So that's coming up in a couple of weeks. So those are the kinds of things that I consider gifts, is just time with it.
Right. Fishing's a big deal for you.
Oh, yes, fishing is life, right? I think if people see my Facebook page, they're going to think all he does is fish or play with his grandson. And I'm like, yeah, because my work's pretty boring to photograph.
Man, yeah, the boats, the lakes, the water, the fishing.
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of fun.
Oh, it is. It is. I think we had crappie last night, which is one of my favorites to eat. But we always have a refrigerator full of fish. So if you're ever in town, let me know, and we'll have some fish.
All right.
Or if you're at Texoma, please let me know. I know some people come down to Texoma sometimes. I'm at the Cedar Mills Marina, so I'd love to see anybody.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Thank you for listening to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast. And we'll be right back after this.
Pop's Daylight Donuts, man, they've got the best tasting donuts, sausage wraps, pastries in Northeast Oklahoma. And also, if you'll tell the staff there, hey, Scott Townsend said to give me a large spicy pig, they'll give you a free large spicy sausage wrap. But you have to tell them Scott Townsend sent you. So tell them, hey, Scott Townsend told me to tell you to give me a large spicy pig. So there's the offer. There's the call to action. So go to Pop's Daylight Donuts, say hi to Mark for me, and go to Pop's Daylight Donuts and get you some. The other sponsor is Cast-A-Fly Outdoor Adventures.
Adventure. That's where it begins. We look to create and document our moments in time while embracing the majestic wonder and beauty of the great outdoors. Our quest is to explore the back roads of the Ozarks, camping, fishing, and just getting lost. Refresh your spirit and join us on our next adventure.
Paul and his crew invite you to subscribe to the Cast-A-Fly Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel. Do you have a bucket list?
I do. And it's not really extensive, and I'm not sure I'm going to do it, but we had one trip planned in the Amazon, and my son and I are going to fish for peacock bass. And they're supposedly one of the premier sport fish to catch. And this outfitter, peacock bass. And so we had the trip planned, and then they had a earthquake, and it changed the direction and the location of the river at the Amazon that we were going to be fishing out of. So they said, we're not doing any tours this year. And then we never really got back to it. Zach was born in Alaska. He didn't really remember it. So instead of doing that, I said, listen, why don't we take an Alaska cruise? So we all did the Alaska cruise together with my grandson. And we had a great time. I highly recommend that to anybody.
What does that do? Go from California to Alaska, or what?
It could go from Seattle to Alaska or Vancouver. So, and we did the Vancouver because the Seattle is a go up and back in 1 week, and the Vancouver run is just go up during 1 week. So you have a lot more time to see things and see the scenery. And we got the balcony room, and we saw it all, whales, all that stuff. So Zach and I went and caught some halibut. So it was just a great time. My grandson was with us the whole time. Really just unbelievable. Great time.
Back to high school again. Who was your favorite teacher, or what was your favorite class, if you had one?
Oh my gosh. I was so intimidated when I got to Central Junior High, all right? Because there are so many smart people in our class. I just can't picture how they all ended up in the same town, except if it wouldn't have been for Phillips, But some very smart. So I was always intimidated, I guess intellectually, because you got people like Jim Bond. I mean, he's now a PhD, and he's doing all this writing about music, and all the other folks that were so much smarter than me. Someone by Benita Hill, just tons of people that were really extraordinarily smart. So I was intimidated intellectually, but I really, of course, Mr. McKinney. I mean, everybody that talks about art talks about Mr. McKinney. And
Oh,
I really have to give him credit for giving me, a lifelong appreciation of art, which I wouldn't have had I not had him for a teacher. So
I think Stacy Dennis mentioned him too.
yes, I'm probably Glenn did too, as a matter of fact. But another teacher, I don't remember if I took physics with him or not, but Dick Seedling. He was definitely the wrestling coach, and that's really made a big impact on my life, is Mr. Seedling. But I also remember Miss Dean teaching chemistry, and chemistry is the first non-A or B I ever got at College High School.
Really?
Yeah, and the last one, because my dad wasn't real pleased with that, by the way. But I remember her sitting up there lecturing us at that big desk with the sink.
Yeah.
And she'd grab a beaker and she'd put some water in it, she'd drink it, and she'd set it down, and there was beakers everywhere. And I'm going, every time she picked up a beaker, I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? But I think she just did it to kind of freak us out and make us pay attention.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember her name, but the lady that taught English literature.
You're the second person to say that, and I think it's Boffman.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Christy was talking about her yesterday,
Right.
and Mindy
Right.
Dell, I think, was the one that turned me on to her name.
And then Mr. Simmons that taught
Simmons.
English literature and really taught me to appreciate Shakespeare. I mean, Mindy talked about him reading, I think it was Beowulf, right? But what I recall best from him is that he would start reading Shakespeare and it started making sense, because it's, you have to kind of get in that frame of mind with that old English and kind of the meter of how it's written and how it should be spoken. And then it starts to make sense to you. So we had some great teachers. I mean, Mr. Gay, embarrassingly enough, he didn't work me hard enough because I was a football player. And he loved football.
Yeah.
You remember that every week he would predict the score and claim that he was never wrong? And I don't remember him ever being right.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you ever do anything with your art?
My first year of college, I was on art scholarship. But that was something very difficult. It's so hard to put your heart and soul on a canvas, right? And then have somebody quantify it with an A or a B, especially when it's really just kind of this graduate assistant and you're dealing with some athletes that are in your course and they draw a Cookie Monster and get an A, and it's just, it was a different set of rules, right?
Yeah.
And plus I was a Baptist boy, good Baptist boy. I'd never really drank a lot for sure. But they wanted us to do the nude modeling, not ourselves, but to draw nude models. And I just thought,
right,
I'm not gonna do that. So of course now, big deal, right? But back then that was a big deal. So ended up just focusing on the social work and then moving on to marketing, and then end up in software. So, just goes to show you, doesn't matter what you get your degree in, it just matters where you end up. So
right. That's so true. So how have you changed since graduation?
Okay, a lot less hair, a lot more of me.
Other than physical appearance, like gray hair and whatever.
I do want to bring this up. I mean, I feel like I'm the first person that actually realistically reflects my age that you've had on so far. Everybody else doesn't look bad. Okay, they look great. And I'm just trying to bring some reality to your show, Scott. By showing up and saying, yeah, this is me, that's all you get. And You know,
You're taking one
most
for
of
the
it's
team.
gone. Yep, absolutely. So all of those that stayed in shape, I didn't for you. So
Yeah, was it Butch that said Donnie Moreland and those guys are proof that vampires live among us? You know, they
oh
just
my
don't change.
goodness, yeah. I mean, and Butch himself. I mean, come on, really. I mean,
Yeah.
And Butch, if you ever want to go to the highest point of Alaska, which is Mount McKinley, please don't. Okay, that was too scary.
Yeah, that was quite a time for all of us, actually. You know.
Yeah. When my brother was sick, there wasn't anything like social media, so I just had to randomly find people, and I got a hold of Scott Buellinger and Tom were good friends back in high school, and they had some great long telephone conversations. And my job when my brother was in the hospital for so long was to try to find people that would call him, or email him, or interact with him. And so I was desperately doing that back then. And I just looked now at social media and I realized how easy it would have been had we had social media back then.
Right.
Not that social media is, doesn't have its downside as well, but certainly has a.
Well, I always say it's the people that are using it. I mean, it's just a tool, but like any other tool, you can get some yahoo that uses it for bad, and there's a lot of. I really hung my hat a long time ago when I was in marketing about social media and how it was such a great tool to communicate with folks and to if there's a earthquake or something in another part of the country, people can get in touch with each other. There's so many good things about it. Families staying in touch, sharing pictures, videos, but I guess just like anything else, it just depends on who gets a hold of it. And it's like gun control. I mean, you can say what you want, but it's not the gun. It's the person using the gun. The person using the gun to target practice or go hunting or do something nefarious with it. Just
and
it's too bad.
We still have such a stigma about mental illness in this nation that we really need to start getting over and having better conversations about depression and anxiety and these things loners, people that we see at school that aren't fitting in. And
right.
As we all know from each one of these interviews, none of us felt like we fit in, and we were terrified of not fitting in. I don't think that's changed, and I don't think it changes when you reach adulthood. I think when you reach adulthood, you get tired of acting and surround yourself with people that accept you. So
depression's been kind of a big thing for me. I don't go around telling people that, but it's just, it is what it is. And so, and I hate saying that phrase. I can't believe I just said that, but
I hear you. It
can
can be a roaring monster, and it can be a pesky mosquito, and it can change over time. And you have a kid with a disability. Let's talk about depression. I mean, honestly, my wife entered it first. Came from work in Alaska, and I don't know. God knocked my glasses off or what, but I saw that, wow, my wife is really hurting and she's really down. And we are 5,000 miles away from family. And I, as a father, need to do something about it. And I was hiding at work. And it's easy to do in a retail. Retailers expect you to work tons of hours. I mean, that's just the way things happen in that industry. So that was a critical juncture in our life. And I was 30 years old when it happened. And I said, Aphis, you got to get me home, or here's my notice. And I was blessed enough that they took me home, and I got into software because they were doing a software project, and just turned out to be something that I really loved and had an knack for, and been doing it ever since. So But I've also been off and on depression medicine too. When you have a kid with disability, they call it chronic grief. And then, it's not like it's horrible. I mean, please don't take that. I love my son. Josh is a great kid. He's happy probably 90% of the time, which is what I said earlier, is what a father wants. But, as you see other kids progress, and even his own brother progress, and you realize very rapidly that they've left Josh behind developmentally, intellectually, socially. It kind of tears at your heart a little bit. So I've dealt with, like you, I've dealt with depression, definitely during this time. So,
What's your greatest accomplishment?
if you meet my son Josh, when he was first diagnosed with autism, he was very tactily sensitive. Okay, like we touched him all. Most people would tell us that when they picked him up as a baby, he was as stiff as a board. And he was our first kid, so we didn't know that, right? We thought, wow, maybe this is what all kids do.
Yeah.
When we had the second kid, he wasn't a year old before we realized very quickly that I had done wrong, So my greatest accomplishment is that if you ask Josh for a rapid squeeze hug, he will give you a hug, a real honest hug, and he will squeeze the stuff out of you. So I have to say, of anything that I've ever done in my life, that's probably my greatest accomplishment.
What car did you drive in high school?
There were many. My dad was
Oh,
a
yeah?
car nut. So some of you remember that he had a cream-colored 1973 Spider Veloce Alfa Romeo. Okay, beautiful little sports car, two-seater. You could fit when we were that small. You could fit Jeff Blair and Richard Mittweier in the back seat, and then somebody else in the front seat with me. If you had the top down, that was,
Oh, yeah.
what I drove most was a '67 Rally Sport Camaro, which my dad also bought because he wanted to fix it up, and we never really fixed it up. But the driver's window was plexiglass, and so anybody could break into my car. It wasn't as bad as Gordy Falcons. If you remember Gordy's big international four-wheel drive truck, right? Where you could go walk up to it, stick a pocket knife in it and start it.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? People used to
No.
all the time at lunch and really make him mad. And he loved Van Halen. And so anytime you were in kind of that side of the school, he parked out front for some reason. If you were on that front part of school and you heard Van Halen's jump start, you knew that someone has taken Gordy's car, and you look out, is it Gordy or is it somebody else?
Oh, man. I haven't thought of that guy in a long time.
I know, right? And what about Joe Wallace? Has anybody heard from Joe Wallace? I haven't heard from Joe Wallace.
Well, when you mentioned Jim Bond, that's the first time I've heard his name mentioned in forever.
Yeah.
It'd be good to catch up. Hopefully we can grab some of these folks and
Well,
visit with them too.
let's hope so. I really enjoyed listening to all these, and you've done a fantastic job. So it's great to catch up kind of virtually. And I've watched every one of them now. So really, really cool stuff.
So you're it's 1982 and we were at graduation, and what advice, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self as the 18-year-old Mark Thompson steps off the graduation platform?
I'd say don't wait to live your life. Don't be constantly destination focused on, okay, when this happens, that's when it'll be good. Or when I graduate high school, when I graduate college, when I get my first job, when I get that next promotion, I open another company, that you end up discovering by the time you reach our age that the moments along the way that are what are really valuable. Getting somewhere else or achieving something else is not going to make you happy. If you're not happy where you are, then you're not going to be happy just because of a job or a relationship or a house or a car. So I think that's the advice I'd give myself.
It's almost like so many people, including myself, at times have delayed gratification by thinking, just like you said, as soon as I get to this point,
Right.
everything's going to be all right.
Right.
And then you get to that point, and the line always just keeps moving back.
It does. It does.
Until you
We're
realize
really,
you just have to take it for what it is today, forget the line.
and you have to realize you can't be responsible for another person's happiness. You can only be responsible for your own. And
Right.
just, if you can make yourself happy, that's awesome. But more importantly, enjoy the day. Because my brother died at 37, and you don't. When we were kids, we didn't think about that. We didn't think about the finality of death or how short life really is.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I'd get old. I just didn't think it would happen this quick.
Oh man, tell me about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mark, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for dropping in and filling us all in on what you're doing, what you've been up to, and
all right. Now everybody can wake back up, because I put everybody to sleep at this point. So hope you had a good nap on Mark. That's awesome. But
this nap was brought to you by Mark Thompson.
Thompson, yeah. But I'll reiterate my public service announcement. Hey guys, let's get our network going. Let's find somewhere that can use this awesome, talented man in front of us and get him some satisfaction of work beyond just linking us Wildcats back together.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. I really do. And something will turn up, it always does. So
it does. It does. You gotta have faith and you gotta have a good attitude, but it doesn't help to have every good client relationship I've ever had started with a friend recommending me. So.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. All right, man. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. Any last words to the Wildcats before we sign off?
Wow. No, just keep on, man. It's as we wrote in each other's yearbook year after year, stay cool.
All right, well, let's stay cool. So for Mark Thompson, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for watching, listening to the last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
The last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 podcast is a Dietzo Man production. For more episodes, visit the Last of the Col-Hi Wildcats 1982 YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.